All right, big boost for the 49ers might be on its way. Malik Mustafa back at practice today for San Francisco. We could take a quick look at the video from Matt Lively. Does a good job covering the team for K-Pix. That is him, Malik Mustafa, moving fine out on the practice field. He was a star safety for the 49ers as a rookie in 2024. He tore his ACL in the final game of the season. It was actually a second tearing of that same ACL that he tore in college. But the recovery was very quick, quicker than Brandon Ayuk's, because there was much more damage in Brandon's knee. But Malik Mustafa is the 49ers' second ACL patient to return to practice this season. The first was Curtis Robinson, linebacker and special teams ace for the 49ers. So Malik can really help this 49ers defense. He could be back as soon as Sunday for this showdown against Tampa Bay. But, you take a look at some of these numbers. I think this is really, really good stuff from last year. We could see how the 49ers safeties all performed. And I want you to take close attention to the middle column right here. That's yards allowed per cover snap. So Malik had 755 total snaps. He covered for 409 snaps, pass coverage, and he only gave up 49 receiving yards into his coverage. This number right here, 0.12 yards allowed per cover snap for Malik Mustafa, the lowest in all of football. No defensive back allowed less into his coverage last year than Malik Mustafa did. And the 49ers safeties have been getting picked on a little bit over the course of the first 5 games. Marquise Siegel against the Rams gave up 138 passing yards, receiving yards alone into his coverage. Remember that Malik gave up only 49 all of last season. So Malik Mustafa splashed onto the scene last year, not just as a cover guy, but as a missile. It wasn't Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator yet, but Malik was fitting the run well. He was a bright spot on that really lagging 2024 defense. A lot of people are asking me, well, whose spot does he take? Well, first we have to figure out when exactly Malik is going to be ready to head back into the lineup. It could be as soon as Sunday coming up here against Tampa Bay. Just depends how the week of practice goes. But the 49ers have 3 weeks from today to activate Malik Mustafa from the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. His practice window is now open. And when they do activate him, I'm sure that they can employ some 3 safety sets to get him involved. Right now, we're seeing Jair Brown, the 49ers' third safety, actually play in a nickelback-like role. It's a big nickel role. So I've actually moved Jair from the safety position. He'd be a backup to Pinnock or Siegel if one of those 2 guys went down. But he has been performing in that big nickel alongside both Pinnock and Siegel. Once Mustafa returns, well, the safety positions are generally interchangeable now. You don't have a strong safety or a free safety. I think that Marquise Siegel has a bright future in front of him. He's done a lot of good stuff for the 49ers already. I do think that he's a little rougher in coverage right now than Jason Pinnock, and I think both are worse in coverage than Malik Mustafa was last year. You can maybe even run a 3-safety rotation because there might be a gradual snap build that the 49ers want to do for Malik Mustafa, right? They may say 20 snaps for game 1, 40 snaps for game 2. And if that's the case, then you can naturally filter him in. And we don't know what the 49ers health situation is going to be 2 weeks from now against the Atlanta Falcons, the game after that, a month from now. It's always good to have depth at that safety position. So far, they've been fortunate to keep Brown, to keep Pinnock, and to keep Marquise Siegel all healthy for them. So that's just something that we'll have to take on a week-by-week basis. But first, Malik Mustafa does need to be activated from the PUP list. The practice window, though, has been open. Brock Purdy was not seen at practice today, but it was a very, very brief viewing window. Mac Jones was seen, but he wasn't seen throwing. Only Adrian Martinez was throwing. This brings me back to one of my main points about the quarterback room. When Brock started in week 4, the 49ers were essentially forced into it by virtue of the fact that Mac Jones was less healthy than him in week 4. So we cannot assume that Mac Jones' health and availability is going to be a fixed variable. The 49ers would love to slow play this Brock Purdy situation and play the long game because the toe injuries can be so tricky, but they've got to make sure that they have another quarterback who can start in place of him whenever they're trying to do that. In week 4, that wasn't possible, so Brock had to tough it up and play, obviously not at 100%, against Jacksonville. Mac has since passed Brock Purdy in terms of health. I think he was ahead of him based on what was happening on the practice field today. Mac was out there, Brock was not, but it seems that there also are limitations to what Mac Jones can do since he wasn't throwing in the little open window practice. Little on Adrian Martinez, the 49ers QB3. I love talking about him because he's from my home area, go to the 559, born in Hanford, Clovis West High School, went to Nebraska, then he transferred to Kansas State. Was actually the MVP of the UFL this past season. Won a championship, was the MVP. The guy's been a gamer. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's been great for the 49ers scout team so far this year. If he is pressed into action, and it's something that we should just prepare people for, maybe not necessarily for this week, but if Mac keeps on taking hits, if he's out, Mac is not the most mobile guy, and he already has suffered a few dings. If that continues for Mac Jones, well, at some point, the 49ers might have to dig deeper into their quarterback depth, just given the fact that some injuries have already popped up for their QB2. So the 49ers in 1991 used Steve Young, QB2, and then Joe Montana, Steve Bono, QB3. Those guys were behind Joe Montana, who didn't play that season. And then obviously more recently, this is more applicable to now, 2022, Brock Purdy was QB3, ended up playing. So it's not out of the question that QB3 plays at some point, definitely not out of the order of precedent. This is from Matt Mayoko. The players who did not appear during the very, very brief practice window today. I mentioned Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall. That could still be a little bit of time for Ricky Pearsall. Was in some pain after he banged his knee against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a PCL injury, the last that we heard. At least that's what the 49ers expected from Ricky Pearsall. There was limited availability last week, so we haven't gotten an update in a while. Christian McCaffrey wasn't out there, but I wouldn't worry about that. He normally gets Wednesdays off alongside Trent Williams, and today was Monday bonus practice, so I wouldn't read all too far into that absence. And no D Winters seen. Now, D I wonder about because his first 2 games, he was rated over 80 on PFF, and we saw him flying around. I just used that to quantify what we saw. He was picked on a little bit in coverage against the Rams. He hadn't been nearly as good over the last 3 games, D Winters. He was targeted 11 times and gave up 9 catches against LA. So I do wonder if D is 100%. We don't have anything confirmed that he is dealing with something, but he wasn't seen during the very little open window of practice. So it is something to keep an eye out on. Running on the side field today, George Kittle. Remember that Shanahan has said that he's a long shot for this week. Probably is going to return against Atlanta, but I think that there's still a possibility that he does return this week. And the fact that for the first time since George Kittle hurt his hamstring in week 1, we've seen him now working off on the side. I do think that is significant. Upton Stout, the rookie nickelback, hurt his ankle against the Rams, was running off on the side during the practice window today. Alfred Collins, the hero with the punch out of Kyron Williams, knee sprain suffered against the Rams, was working off running on the side. Ben Barch, this is good for the 49ers. Injured reserve for Barch right now. He's got to miss at least 1 more game, but Ben Barch was running off on the side. He's coming back from a high ankle sprain, and the 49ers can really use him to reset that left guard position where Connor Colby, the rookie, has struggled. Jordan Watkins running off on the side. That could also be looked at as something positive. Watkins is not on injured reserve, but he's been out so far for the whole season. A calf injury that he suffered very, very early on in the regular season has shelved Jordan Watkins. Then there is Robert Beal, who was out of the last game against the Rams, but he was working off on the side today. And Derek Canteen, the recently re-signed DB, playing some safety for the 49ers. He was safety during training camp. He was also working off on the side. So that's the quick run through. I do think that the one that really should stand out to you is George Kittle, because their Probably is a small chance that he's back this week. I think it would really help the 49ers if he was back against Tampa. Don't count on it, though. Just know that he is progressing from that hamstring. He finally is eligible to return from injured reserve. Now, he still would need to have his practice window open to actually practice. Running on the side is not the same as actually practicing. But today was a bonus practice. It's nothing too much to read into. We are going to see on Wednesday if the 49ers open up any other practice windows. Now, the return window for Malik Mustafa, if he is indeed activated from the PUP list, will count as one of 8 49ers activations. So I will put it on this list when it does happen. Kevin Givens, they're still waiting for him, but he's going to take up one of the 8 for sure because they designated him to return at the cut down. That's part of the rules. Malik Mustafa will be 2 out of 8 for the 49ers. Once George Kittle returns, that'll be 3 out of 8. Ben Barch will be 4 out of 8. We know that Bosa is not returning, but the 49ers have already used up 4 or will have used up 4 of their return from IR designations after those 4 guys who are expected back are indeed back. At some point, I would think Spencer Burford as well. That'll be 5. And, of course, you've got to leave room for your other pup guy, Brandon Ayuk. That could be 6. Now, NFI, that's where Curtis Rourke is. That does not count. A return from NFI, the non-football injury list, does not count toward the 8 max that you have to return. So Rourke could be activated really at no cost except for a roster spot for the 49ers if he is indeed healthy for San Francisco. We're going to take a look at some of the footage coming from the locker room. Alfred Collins and Diamador Lenore spoke. First, though, want to have you hear from our sponsor, Ridge Wallets, on this show. Unique, slim, modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash, made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. Over 50 colors to choose from with Ridge Wallets. All of them have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. Over 100,000 5-star reviews online for Ridge Wallets. And with the Ridge AirTag attachment, you'll always know exactly where it is before that panic mode kicks in. So no matter which wallet you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all of their products. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code Lombardi at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use the code Lombardi, and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Thank you to Ridge Wallets as we go through what happened at the 49ers facility today. I want to hear about Malik Mustafa from Diamador Lenore. This is courtesy of Matt Lively, who was in San Francisco's facility today. Lively delivers Diamador Lenore.
A real bullet. Like I call him, like he's like our human bullet out there. You know, there's no fear, relentless player. I can't wait to have him back. I'm happy to have him back, and I'm happy he's ready to go.
So to me, when you listen to that, sounds like Malik Mustafa might be ready to go for Sunday for the 49ers. And, you know, this defense is leaking some oil. I get it that they were able to make the stops when they needed to in the game against the Rams. But, I mean, they gave up nearly 400 passing yards to Matthew Stafford. They gave up nearly 5 yards a carry to the Rams. They got lucky on one of the giveaways from the Rams. It was a pitch that Blake Corum just dropped. You got to give Alfred Collins a lot of credit for his big punch out. The rookies, I think, are growing up right in front of our eyes. But I'm working on a big statistical analysis piece for the San Francisco Standard right now. And I'll tell you, that defensive line, especially with the injuries that it's currently suffering through, is really, really thin. And, you know, one way you're going to have to make some moves, I think, if you're the 49ers, by the time that Wednesday comes around, or at least by the time the game comes around, because of some of the injuries that they're facing. Clea Davis is going to be out for a couple games. Gross Matos, I would think, at least a couple games. Collins is dealing with the knee sprain. So you're probably going to see Evan Anderson, Sebastian Valdez with bigger roles this week. We'll see if Sebastian Valdez actually makes his NFL debut. But another way to fortify the defensive line in-house is to get more blitzing help from the back end. So they call Malik Mustafa the human bullet. Once he comes off of the PUP list and is slotted in here at one of the safety positions, assuming that Upton Stout can play through the ankle injury at Tampa Bay, you're going to have two guys whom Robert Saleh really can use as firecrackers coming in from the back seven to add extra pressure on the quarterback. I mean, both Stout and Malik Mustafa have a lot in common when it comes to the way that they play run support and the way that they blitz. And I think what the 49ers were trying to do with the draft over the past 2 years is add a lot of explosive weapons with real muscle on the back end so they could play the run better. It was already starting to slide in 2023. The one guy out of the back end who played the run well in 2024 was Malik Mustafa, who was then a rookie. This year, they truly doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on drafting guys to play the run. So Upton Stout out of the defensive backfield with all the muscle he has, the 21 bench press reps, most of any DB at the combine, he totally fits the bill. But I think he and Malik Mustafa, they play different positions, but can be similar types of players for the 49ers that Robert Saleh can deploy in pressure packages. He's going to need to bring more than 4 because this defensive line is currently beaten up, and at times against the Rams, they definitely were overmatched. Now, I made a video earlier today on the 49ers trade situation, and I talked about Trey Hendrickson, and I talked about Jeffrey Simmons and Arden Key and Bradley Chubb from the Miami Dolphins. I mean, there was a lot of intel there on whom the 49ers might pursue and how that might work given who's going to be a buyer and who's going to be a seller. Obviously, they need to fortify the defensive line. I mean, they've lost Yetur Gross-Matos for at least a couple of games, it looks like here. So there goes your best interior pass rusher. You've already lost your best exterior pass rusher in Nick Bosa. You're losing guys to injury, it seems, every week if you're the 49ers. You weren't getting to Matthew Stafford the other day. He had all day to throw. I see a lot of people fawning over that throw to Tutu Atwell. Well, I busted out the stopwatch watching on tape, and there was 4.8 seconds between snap and release. And if Matthew wanted 6 to throw, he would have had 6 to throw. The 49ers just weren't getting to him. So any QB is going to look good if they've got as much time as Matthew Stafford had, and he still managed to miss a few throws in that game. But that's a separate point. 49ers need to equip themselves to be ready without as many smoke and mirrors as Robert Saleh is having to use right now. But Malik Mustafa's return should give the 49ers more smoke and mirrors to potentially use because he has been such a good player. I mean, one more time, the graphic right here, the 0.12 yards per cover snap, really, really special season for Malik Mustafa in 2024. We also have one more clip. This is from Alfred Collins. This is also from Matt Lively. Let me make a little text title here to make sure that everybody follows Matt since he was able to get both of these clips today. So everybody check out Matt Lively, works for K-Pix, does a great job. Went to ASU. I think he was actually there when Brandon Ayuk was at ASU and Chase Lucas was at ASU. But here, we could watch Matt and his quick video from Alfred Collins in the 49ers locker room.
I mean, I don't know if y'all saw. I was like looking up, but I thought he scored. But I was like, "Oh, the ball's right here." So, it was awesome to be able to, make that play for my team.
What was the aftermath of that like in terms of your phone blowing up and
felt like it was my birthday.
Texas?
Yeah, it felt like it was my birthday.
Yeah.
So Alfred Collins actually thought Kyron Williams scored because he took that swing. And he didn't realize that, the ball actually came out. And, I wouldn't be that surprised if I'm Alfred Collins. Dude is really big and really strong. Then he realized the ball was right there, and he hopped right onto the football and created one of the great defensive moments. I'll go ahead and say it in 49ers history. I mean, division rival, completely shorthanded team, decimated roster. Rams are heavy favorites. They're at the 1. I mean, you can't think of a more dramatic time to do that at a more dramatic spot right in front of the goal line. And, with a big swing, he knocked the ball right out. That's one that you could replay for a long, long time. I just loved how violent it was. You remember when George Kittle said in the offseason about Robert Saleh and the new look 49ers defense, violence is coming. That was George's quote. Violence did indeed come there. with Alfred Collins on Kyron Williams. So cool to hear from him in the 49ers locker room. If you made me guess here, the 49ers won't play Brock Purdy on Sunday. I've already said this a few times, but we just did look at the facts. You can go back to the video I made about the facts of the Brock Purdy situation. The key one being that he said that he actually felt better after the Jacksonville game than after the initial occurrence of a toe injury, the Seattle game. But I would still expect this to sideline him for at least one game and probably at least 2 games, because they took 2 games off after the first occurrence. And it really sounds like the 49ers, after they had no choice in week 4 because Mac was more hurt than Brock, it really sounds like they want to play the long game here. Toe injuries are really tricky. I mean, toe ended up getting Deion Sanders. Toe injury ended up getting Patrick Willis. These are some of the greatest to ever play the game. So the 49ers need to make sure that Brock Purdy gets the healing time that is going to be necessary here, especially given the fact that there was a little bit of a setback in that game against Jacksonville. So I would be shocked if he played against Tampa Bay. I think the practice participation today is your first hint. We're going to have a much stronger hint, and Kyle Shanahan is going to speak on Wednesday. We'll see if Mac Jones is throwing the ball around on Wednesday. That's obviously going to be a critical data point as well. So it's one of those things where the 49ers are very lucky to have the quarterback situation that they have. Mac Jones was a really good signing. He fits the system well. Purdy's obviously the more explosive quarterback, the more efficient quarterback, but Mac Jones ran it like Jimmy Garoppolo used to run it for the 49ers the other day in LA. San Francisco will take performances like that on a week in and week out basis. But bottom line is that it takes 2 quarterbacks to get it done in this league. Guys all around the league hurt every single season. And the 49ers probably know that better than anyone. And it's, they could have 2 guys in the top 10 of efficiency at the quarterback position. Jones is number 12. Purdy's number 9 right now in terms of EPA. Purdy's in the top 5 when it comes to adjusted EPA, if you want to factor in drops, but just straight expected points added, which is going to factor in interceptions. It's going to factor in yardage, touchdowns, all that you want, sack yardage. Brock Purdy is number 9. Mac Jones is number 12. If the 49ers can get both of those guys in the top 10, it would be one of the more epic quarterback rooms that we've ever seen. And so far, they have the best record in the NFL. They're 4-1, and they're doing it with both Brock Purdy and Mac Jones having started some football games. All right, let's go back and let's look more at the 49ers roster right now, just to get a better feel of where they are entering what I could say it's a showdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the game of the week. I'm sure the NFL is happy that they flexed it after Tampa Bay beat Seattle yesterday and the 49ers beat the Rams. As you can see, the D-line really, really thin. And I do think Travis Gibson might get another call-up, even a promotion. I tend to think that with Kalia down, Evan Anderson's going to be the guy getting the next look at defensive tackle. This is why I say maybe it's a defensive tackle trade for somebody like Jeffrey Simmons that makes even more sense than an edge rusher trade, because Yetur Gross-Matos is now hurt. And I know he's listed as an exterior guy here, but Gross-Matos does most of his pass rushing from the inside. Really, really important player in the grand scheme of things for the 49ers. I'm not going to list D. Winters in an injury shading just yet, but it is worth noting that he was off on the side at or not seen at 49ers practice today. So it's one of those things where D's play has fallen off a little bit over the course of the past 2 weeks, and it is worth keeping an eye out on his status. Corner, Upton Stout working off on the side today. Generally healthy room for the 49ers, but Malik Mustafa will be returning. And if Malik is activated, that's going to have to be a roster move for San Francisco on the 53. And they have got so many injuries right now, like even ones they just sustained in the game against the Rams the other day, that I don't want to even have to think about projecting what they would do as a corresponding move. But just know that we're going to have some news to cover over the course of this week. On the offensive side of the ball, Purdy obviously hurt. Mac, I could shade him in pink as well, but I think he's healthier than Brock Purdy right now. Watkins, Pearsall, Jennings still out. Jennings was seen walking into the weight room with his jersey on, holding a helmet, which I think is a good sign. So I would say that Juwan Jennings, like if the 49ers are going to return guys this week, Malik is one. Juwan Jennings might be another. George Kittle is a long shot, but he was working off on the side, which is progress for the 49ers. The next 2 weeks, now the problem is it's going to be hot in Tampa. You're going to play a physical team in Tampa. You're just playing another NFL game. You could see more guys get hurt, right? So you can never really assume that you're just going to get healthier and healthier as the season goes along. 49ers hope that that's the case, but they need some injury luck now. They need to stay healthy at a certain point so that they can turn around and get healthier with many of these players coming back. Before we go to questions right now, let's talk about what's going on tonight. Jacksonville against the Kansas City Chiefs. Quality Monday Night Football matchup, to the point where, I'm going to bust out the team tier chart to really frame what we're going to be looking at in this game tonight. And I've been tweeting a lot today. The tier 1 Indianapolis Colts. That's crazy. Here we go to check out the wildly unpredictable NFL. So x-axis is offense, y-axis is defense. You want to be further to the right, further up. So you can see here the Colts are in the top tier. Then you've got diagonal tiers moving down. 4 elite teams so far. This is not including special teams of the Colts, the Lions, the Packers, and the Bills. The 49ers are not in bad position. They are above average on both offense and defense, but they need some of these guys that come back so they can move further up this way. As it stands right now, the 49ers are in the 4th tier. This weekend, they are going to be heading to Florida and playing a 3rd-tier team, the Tampa Bay. They've already lost to a 3rd-tier team in Jacksonville. They've beaten a 3rd-tier team in the Rams, and they've beaten a 3rd-tier team in the Seattle Seahawks. So they're 2-1 against Tier 3, coming from Tier 4, which goes to show you that this team, based on what they've put on tape statistically so far, is overachieving. That's thanks to the clutch wins that the 49ers have notched. They're right there with the Eagles. They're there with the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Patriots, who we saw last night beat the Buffalo Bills. It's a simple goal for the 49ers. Move further to the right with your offense. Move further up with your defense. Get up into another tier if you're San Francisco. If that does happen for the 49ers, well, I think we'll have a good shot to upset one of these 4 teams. And maybe by the end of the season, we see the 49ers climb up somewhere over here, and they'll be essentially even efficiency-wise with the Big 4 in the NFL. And we'll see if the Big 4 come back down to earth. I know that Buffalo has already regressed a little bit. Green Bay's defense has already regressed down near where Buffalo's is. We'll see. Detroit has been playing out of their minds, I think, on both sides of the ball. Maybe they regress. And, of course, Indianapolis is the only team right now in Tier 1. The 49ers get to play them right around Christmas. But tonight's game, Monday night, is 2 Tier 3 teams. Kansas City's logo is hidden by Washington's, but it's right here. And Jacksonville's right here. We're familiar with them because they played the 49ers not long ago. What happens between Jacksonville and Kansas City? Jacksonville's got one of the best fronts in all of football. And I think the Chiefs are going to have some trouble tonight. I really do. It's in Jacksonville. I think there's maybe a lot more respect put on the 49ers name, on Brock Purdy's name, for how they dealt with Jacksonville. Over 400 yards of total offense, but they did have those giveaways, but they were still able to move the ball. But I think more respect will be in line after we see Jacksonville operate against Kansas City tonight. I believe Kansas City is favored. I'm going to double check that, but they might be favored on reputation only for this game tonight. 3.5 points, they are favored. So, yes, Mahomes is better than Trevor Lawrence, but I would argue that this Jacksonville defense is better than what the Chiefs are putting out there, and this is a team sport, so we're going to see how this goes. Nice game to wrap up what's been a really fun week for the 49ers as they've surged to the top record in the NFC and the NFL at 4-1. And tonight we get to see the Jags try to join the 49ers. There are 6 4-1 teams in the league, including San Francisco. It would be 7 if Jacksonville can beat Kansas City tonight. All right, any good questions? I'm ready to answer just a couple. Trayvon Walker not playing tonight. That is a big loss for Jacksonville, but they are deep on that defensive front. They've done a good job building it. Eric Armstead, who sealed the game against the 49ers, will be playing. Do I think this team is special yet? I believe they are. I've said this. They've defied my predictions twice against Seattle and against LA. When you could win a game with 2% post-game win probability, it was 2.2 against LA, missing that many guys, something good is going on inside the building. That's all I could say for now. And now the 49ers, it's up to them to make this more sustainable and move themselves further up and to the right. But they have defied some of the projections so far, and I do think that there's a special component to what the 49ers are doing. Can the 49ers stop the run against Tampa Bay? They've been a mediocre run defense so far. They haven't been terrible. There's not going to be Bucky Irving. It's going to be Rashad White. I think, stopping Emeka Egbuka and stopping what Baker Mayfield is doing, the Seahawks couldn't do that, might be also very important for the 49ers on Sunday against Tampa. Tampa favored by 3 points against the 49ers. I love this comment. This team reminds me of those Bochy-led Giants teams from the early 2010s. A lot of people counting them out. Analytically, not great. Analytically, maybe just a little bit above the middle of the pack, but ended up knocking off a lot of the favorites, including the Philadelphia Phillies that year and the Texas Rangers to win the Super Bowl. Good analogy. It's still early though, right? We're only entering week 6, so it's a marathon and it is not a sprint. All right, guys, I got to go finish writing. Everybody, thanks for watching. We're going to have a big article up on the San Francisco Standard soon, and it'll be up by the time the Monday Night Football is over. So maybe we check in after this game. Malik Mustafa's back. 49ers starting to heal up. Yeah, I get it. It's going to be a long process, though. That's your practice update. We'll talk to you soon.